Look at Masvidal's hair. Isn't that looking slick?
Cow licked it.
Right. Okay. A similar record, a bit more experience for Covington, of course. So 16-3 for Covington, 35-15 for Masvidal. Same height, 2-inch reach advantage for Masvidal. Wins by KO, 3 for Covington and 16 for Masvidal. 5 wins by submission for Covington and 2 for Masvidal. Now, I don't expect Masvidal to sub him, really, I don't. But the fact that he is a neck attacker, that he's darces and anacondas and stuff, does make it interesting if Colby gets rocked, if he gets hurt. Imagine Masvidal rushing forward and Covington level changing and Masvidal catching him with a knee and rocking him for a minute. And then Covington's autopilot is to grab his legs and scramble. And that's where Masvidal does what he did to Chiesa, where he wraps him up with that anaconda and chokes him out.
Kind of like that Dustin Poirier fight that you were talking about, his darces.
Exactly.
Who is it that he was fighting?
His nickname was the Scarecrow. I can't think what his actual name is.
That's close enough. I called Michael Lord the whole time.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. But
McCow
what you find is that good strikers tend to develop good neck attacks because people are trying to level change into them. Like I always say, the guillotine is the striker's submission. Like I have one submission on my record. It was a guillotine. It was kind of accidental. He kind of fell into it. You know, I'm not a submissions guy. I never claimed to be, but guillotines were always the first thing that would come to mind because you start defending the takedown and sometimes you notice you're like, oh, I can just fucking, Masvidal's been doing this for years. He's had 50 fights and that's only the ones that we've got recorded on his Tapology page. You've got to think how many times he's fought, in the gym and it's felt like a real fight, on the streets and it's been a real fight. I can't ever underestimate Masvidal. I think his fight IQ is incredibly high. I think he's very clever at the way he plays the game, the psychology of it. The question is, how well does Colby know him and how well can Colby maintain pressure on Masvidal without getting hurt? Because that's what it's all about. It's about volume and pressure. Masvidal's the slicker striker. There's no doubt about it. And I know people will disagree. They'll go, oh yeah, but Usman knocked out Masvidal. As a fellow fighter, explain this shit to these people. MMA math doesn't work like that. If one person beats another person by striking, that doesn't mean that person's now no good at striking. Like, I would still say that Masvidal is a better striker than Usman, right? Technically, he's a more well-rounded striker. He's got more facets to his game.
But he got caught.
He got caught with a beautiful punch. It happens in MMA.
Same in grappling. What was this? Rodolfo Vieira that got armbarred.
There you go.
You're not going to tell me that guy is better grappling than him.
Right. Anaconda? Darce? I think it was a neck attack, wasn't it?
Oh, whatever. Submission.
But the point goes both ways, right? Colby Covington's striking isn't as good as Masvidal's, but if he puts himself in punching range and keeps throwing, something's going to land and it's going to be effective, right? Now, Usman, when he fought Masvidal the first time, clinched him, held him up against the fence, stomped on his feet, made it a very boring fight because he didn't want to play striking. But then he went and knocked out Gilbert Burns, and his confidence has shot up now. Mm-hmm. This is just a very different fight again. I think that they're going to stand at kicking range, and I think Masvidal is going to wait for Covington to come to him and defend as many takedowns as he can and try and hurt him in the process. Elbows and knees and, body kicks. I think there's going to be nothing taken off the table for Masvidal. I don't think he's going to be afraid to throw anything in case it gets caught or whatever, because I think he knows that he can scramble and he can get back to his feet against Covington.
Which he has been training for a very, very long time.
Prepared by Covington. Yeah.
And with him leaving to MMA Masters, which I will say they always seem to kind of know the drama going on ATT and
they harvest the fighters from there.
Ready to pounce on it. I remember when I spoke to them, because that actually MMA Masters was the first place that I trained MMA, and then I went to ATT for a little bit, but I was very, very young. And Amanda Nunes had gone and had transferred, and I remember I was speaking to them, and they were telling me that she was having a bit of issues with the stuff at American Top Team, and now she's left. So it's kind of like, and during the countdown, they were talking about how the drama at the gym couldn't play out. So they were kind of really prepared for, either Colby or Masvidal or whoever of the two was going to leave to like kind of get them because it's in a similar area. But the only issue that I have with that is that maybe they'll be a little bit too catering to Covington, to a little bit too like, yes, because like now you're a big star in our gym, and that.
So they want him to stay training there instead of telling him what he's doing wrong and risk losing him.
Yes, yeah, exactly. And also when I see some of the ads that Colby does with like the bang energy, it seems like the coaches play into it a little bit more than they would at ATT. At ATT, people were getting like kind of annoyed.
Yeah.
Like, why are you bringing in these girls? Like, why are you talking all this? And it wasn't as catering to what he wanted, which I think in his mind he really does feel like Masvidal like betrayed him for somehow, you know? Like maybe he does. Maybe he feels like maybe he's kind of just a little bit delusional and feels like it was because of his success and not that he was trashing, absolutely trashing, like any sort of immigrant that is basically all of South Florida. Like there's more Spanish speaking people than there is like you do in English. And I know that his beef wasn't with Hispanic people, that he talked bad about Brazilians, but you're in Sao Paulo with Damian. Like Damian Maia is one of like the nicest person. Like I think if like a family member of mine fought Damian Maia, I'd probably.
but let me, and this is a very unusual thing for me to do. Let me come to Colby's defense in this circumstance, because he went into that fight being told that he was going to be released regardless. Like the UFC weren't going to re-sign him because they didn't like him. They didn't like his character because he didn't have a character.
Yeah.
So. And this was, you can see the impact on his social media. There's a documentary about it and about the turning point, and the impacts on his social media on his fights, and then on the point when he went to Brazil and caused all that chaos. He's playing a game. Yeah. I don't believe anything that he says. I don't think I think he's gone after Masvidal knowing full well that it's one of the easier fights in the division for him, because Gilbert Burns would probably be a rough fight. Leon Edwards would probably be a rough fight. I think he feels like he knows Masvidal enough, and Masvidal's, 37. He's on his way down towards the end of his career. I think he feels like this is not only a valuable win to add on his record, but it's also a name that will allow him to banter back and forth and stay in the public eye.
Yes.
Because that's what this fight's all about for me. It's about the fact that these two guys knew each other, they trained together, they referred to each other as best friends when they were living together. And then the turning point when Covington turned on Masvidal was live on TV, and they kind of played the interview in to Masvidal in the studio, and you could see he was angry, but you could also see he was hurt. Like there was something genuine in Masvidal's face, like, fucking really? Like, because Masvidal was recognizing what Covington's doing. He's like, oh, okay, you recognize, you see me as the weak part of the division now, so you're going to go after me. And that has riled Masvidal no end. And that makes me very excited, because that version of Masvidal's lethal. Like, the Masvidal that's being counted out because Darren Till's so much bigger and more powerful than him, and he's fighting him in London, and he starches him, right? Then he goes into the Askren fight, and everyone's like, as soon as he gets his hands on him, he's going to be a nightmare, and he just didn't even manage to touch him. He was fucking rigor mortis before he even realized the fight had started. Masvidal angry is in his element. He's in his element because he doesn't get miscalculated with it, right? He stays calm and he stays lethal. And I think, to be honest, and I know this is going to upset some of the Diaz fans out there, but I very much felt like he carried Nate through part of that fight. Like, Nate's toughness kept him in there, absolutely, but there were a few moments where Masvidal could have put him out. I genuinely believe that. And I feel like Masvidal was trying to put on a performance because of the event. Fucking, president's there, and the Rock's there. Yeah, exactly. He needed to almost validate Nate as one of the BMFs in order for the belt to be worth something. Yeah. Of course, it's a gimmick belt, and we all know that, but it did represent something in the moment. It represented two of the most fucking gangster individuals on the roster fighting one another. It just so happened that the real gangster is Nick Diaz. That's who we wanted in there. And that would have been a different Masvidal. He would have been far more calculated and respectful. With Nate, he kind of toyed with him. And Nate had too much scar tissue to even stay in the fight long enough to to kind of pull it back in his direction. That's a calculated Masvidal that's not angry at his opponent, and he still did that to him. When you see him angry and focused, he's deadly. And I like Covington based on the fact that he's able to put a really good MMA skill set out into the field. But for me, I always gravitate towards that person that's got that natural fucking dog in them, because I recognize that aspect in myself. I'm like, okay, you're gonna kick me, I'm gonna bury you. You know what I mean? He's got that kind of attitude. And well, I mean, I tagged him in an Instagram post the other day. I put the breakdown show post in my stories, tagged him in it, and he literally just replied, "Gonna hurt him." 3 words, "Gonna hurt him." Nothing else.
That was awesome.
And that's a private message as well. That's not for anybody else. That's him just fucking letting me know where his mind's at. And I didn't doubt it for a second. I'm like, yeah, I know. The question is, can Colby stop him doing it? And he can quite possibly do it. I mean, most people are thinking that Covington's going to take him down and maul him. But it's not nearly as clean cut as that. Like, people underestimate Masvidal all the time. They always underestimate him. You know? And I think Covington has got a really, really good skill set that Masvidal's really, really familiar with.
Yeah.
And the difference in Masvidal's game is that he was already a great fighter when Covington was his training partner, and now he's matured into a veteran. Mm-hmm. Covington's matured into a great fighter, but he's still not got that veteranship level that Masvidal's got. And a lot of the skills that he learned, especially the striking skills, he would have got from working with Masvidal.
Yeah, same coaches, same team. Which
Masvidal even paid for the coaching in one of his training camps because Colby didn't pay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is part of the reason why Masvidal got so mad.
Yeah.
Because he ended up being mad not after the Brazil thing, because they were still kind of cool. It was after like a problem with the payment of the coaches, which...
You know, right after Covington had been to Brazil and called everybody names, he was in Australia. Do you remember when Verdum attacked him with that boomerang?
Yeah.
I watched that through the window of the hotel lobby, and that's the point of difference between the two. Covington was like, call the police, security, yeah, fucking lawsuits and all kinds of stuff. Masvidal would have, he would have been calm. He'd have put his hands behind his back, and then he'd have fucking ran you down at some point and attacked you, because that's his style.
Yeah,
I can't root against Masvidal ever. Like, I just can't. I'm a big fan of Masvidal. I think this is going to be a really, really tough test for him, and I could quite easily see Covington mauling him to a decision. But there are lots of opportunities for Masvidal to catch him with that wicked smash elbow that he's got. And if he starts to gain a bit of ground on Covington, he's going to eat that up. I'm going for Masvidal.
Yeah, I am as well. There's just like... I'm just not going to go for Colby. Like, I think ever in my life, I'm never going to say Colby's going to win.
Yeah.
Even if I might think who's going to win, I'm just never... It's not going to come out of my mouth. It's not like... I understand that you need whatever to get yourself up. And to be honest, the amount of media and attention he got after that was ridiculous. It was like, it worked to a T. But I'd rather somebody have morals and not be known than do that. Yeah. Nope.
Yeah.
Not for me. I think Masvidal by stoppage. You know what, dude? When he came back from that TV show that he had time to like mental himself, he came back and he fought Darren Till, and it was incredible. And he also fought Ben Askren, and it was incredible. I think after that, it got a little bit like fame and derailed him. I think with Masvidal, it's never that he's not like maybe the better fighter. He's just kind of like ebb and flows on how much he like
the thing is,
when you fight so much, it's just another fight. It doesn't become like, this is my 10th fight that is this much, you know? Like, if I'm undefeated, that means like my entire life. It goes like, it's a fight. I've been in 8,000 of them. Let's go.
It's kind of like Musashi on Friday night, right? Like Gegard Mousasi, again, another one of my favorite fighters, has had
so funny.
50 odd fights, right? And sometimes he just doesn't seem to want to be in there. That's the really odd thing about Musashi. He just does. He's like, sometimes he's just like, maybe I'll fight this time, maybe I won't, and then but then if he decides he wants to put it on someone, he usually just runs through them. Like, I mean, you could make a real strong argument that Gegard Mousasi is the best middleweight in the world right now, and I would argue that corner for you. I could give you a few curveballs in the opposite direction, but I definitely think he's up there. I mean, you look at the amount of experience he's got compared to everybody else in mixed martial arts across. But as you said, you get later on in your career and you've had loads of fights, it becomes a bit more comfortable. And I do feel like Masvidal can be comfortable sometimes, but I think that comfortability suits him, either because he's okay with his opponent and he carries him while he beats him up like he did against Nate, or he hates him and he's going to put it on him, but he doesn't rush it and go reckless. He still reads them and calculates and picks his opportunity.
And you're also adding in his coach that trained Colby a lot of his striking. He's mad because he didn't get paid, and the whole drama that happened.
It's a whole team effort.
Yeah, so now the team's really gonna be picking at every single inch possible to take advantage. And like you said about the Ben Askren knockout, it wasn't a coincidence or something. He always dips his head to one side, to the same side as soon as he starts the fight. So, if that being said, with the amount of information he had on Ben, imagine the amount of information he has on Colby.
Mm-hmm.
So that plus his a malicious intent in the fight, mixed with some meditation and some
and some street Jesus.
But not only that, but think he's in Miami, man. He gotta defend it.
Yeah.
He has to. Yeah. He's holding it down for Miami.
Is that right?
Yeah, 305 and stuff. Let's go.
Oh, shit, she's claiming postcodes and stuff now. I don't know. Fucking NG12. I don't know. Whatever.
No, that's a phone number. 305 is what the phone starts with.
Oh yeah, no, it's area code. That's your area code. 702 is Vegas, right?
Yeah.
I used to have a 702. I used to have a 323, which is
but
Hollywood.
It's not a postcode. A postcode's different. A postcode's 38272 whatever. It's not like in England when it's
you need to watch the James Acaster thing when he's talking about gang warfare in southeast London. It's hilarious. You seen it?
Yeah, I've seen it. Yeah,
fucking brilliant.
I guess that's what I'll do next.
He got so angry at one point that he shouted out his whole postcode and had to move house. You're going for Colby Covington. I'm going for Masvidal.
What? I
right?
never said that.
I think you did. I kind of feel like you said. I think it's just Colby Covington. Okay, we're Team Masvidal this week. I kind of can't pick against him. So most of the time, I really am impartial. I really don't care. But I am a big Masvidal fan, as you know.
Yeah.
It was very difficult when he was fighting Darren Till because I didn't really want to see either of those guys fight one another.
Yeah, and he came to speak to you after.
Yeah.
With Darren Till's bands.
Yeah. Well, I mean, he'd watched the breakdown show, and I think what he felt all the way through that is that he wasn't getting any credit that he was going to win, and because I did the face off with them as well, which was a lot of fun. And I mean, there was a lot of kind of relaxed banter back and forth, but the whole energy of Masvidal is, I'm going to prove you're wrong. I'm going to prove everybody wrong, and that was the energy that he had. And I would imagine the people that he felt were of the same mindset that he had that potential was quite a small group.
To say that, real quick with that fight, he has these set moves that he can see, the blistering shots or the knees and stuff, but he times it well to the opening of the opponent because Darren Till was leaving an opening for that, and he caught on to it just as he caught on to that Ben Askren. He uses his skill sets, but directly where the hole
where they
is.
Need it. Yeah. Where he needs. Yeah.
So smart dude.
Yeah.
I like him.
I hope he doesn't get mauled for 25 minutes because that would be rather frustrating to watch.